What's up, CJ Squad? CJ here from CJ's Gaming Channel, and today we are exploring the World of Gaming Apparel exhibit from SoCal Gaming Expo. There are so many unique art pieces in this exhibit, so many t-shirts, memorabilia, F1 racing, you name it. It's amazing the stories where these items have come from and the fact that they are still preserved today, so that way we can see them in person is so cool to me. If you guys want some amazing Nintendo history that you've never heard of before, I highly recommend you stay tuned to this entire video because Johnny from Johnny Collects has so much information on his entire collection. Sean and Stephan on a few of the items that they have here. It was so much fun recording this video, and shout out to you guys for letting me chat your ears off. You guys are all really cool guys. And also shout out to Chris from Pixel Game Squad for organizing this whole exhibit and getting these guys into SoCal Gaming Expo. It definitely made it for a fun experience.
I've thought about having like a rotating dryers rack that would be kind of like my ultimate display, where you would have it all encased in like plexiglass, and you would have a system that rotates it, and then you could have an interface with like images, and you press it, and it would basically come, and it would like, because they'd be all lined up side by side, and then it would come and it would rotate it, so you could see. That would be my
box for the shirt collection.
Yeah,
on a dryer.
exactly,
Oh, cool.
a jukebox.
That's genius.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be when I launched my museum, my real physical museum. That would be my way that I would want to display the shirts.
Gotcha.
That way you can have basically an endless loop and just keep adding them.
When that happens, I will allow Sean to absorb all of the non-duplicate shirts on this wall.
There you go.
So I can visit them.
Because he will have already sold me his duplicates.
Right?
Yeah. So you won't have any duplicates.
Do you remember your first shirt, first item that you purchased when you started your collection?
I actually don't remember my first shirt.
For the
I'm sure it was just like nothing crazy, you know? Probably the first item I bought was Super Mario World.
Yep.
Because I was a Sega kid. My family couldn't afford a Nintendo growing up, so when I got in like my early 20s, I started making money, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna buy some of this old stuff. Did you see Stephan's Game Boy contest?
I don't think so.
Yeah, you gotta check it out.
Here, come check it out.
You see the hat I'm wearing too? This was the manager hat that was given out when they did the promotional at Burger King.
That's cool.
The Big Kids meal.
That's awesome.
Give her the spiel on your Game Boy over there.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so Nintendo ran a contest called the Ultimate Game Boy Design Contest, where kids they printed out a template and they could color it in, and it would be their ultimate Game Boy. You know, they designed their own Game Boys. 3 of those Game Boys were chosen to be created into actual physical Game Boys, one of each, and that in the corner there is one of them. Custom painted retail Game Boy, but it is custom painted by Nintendo, so that's
Gotcha. Very cool.
For me, and at the same time, it was like back then. There's definitely some popularity that's grown in the past couple of years for apparel, but back then, like no one really was that crazy into it. So for me, it was fun to be the one researching a lot of this stuff and like trying to figure out where stuff came from before people really knew about it.
Right.
And so that's kind of how Sean and I connected. Is I sold him some rare apparel that he was interested in, and we kind of became friends through that. And then Chris is the owner and operator of this expo. It's his first year doing it. You know, I don't know if you know
Pixel Game Squad, the whole crew. Yeah, they're awesome.
And so I've sold Chris some shirts too. Chris is a shirt enthusiast.
Yep.
And he invited me to come curate this exhibit, and I was like, I know that Sean has all these awesome jackets and items. I was like, I got to get him in on it.
For sure.
I mean, it's just, and we kind of did it together, and I think it turned out pretty good.
It did. It like definitely topped it off. Like it was great collaboration between you guys all. And I know it's a hard question to ask, but out of all these items, do you have some that are more favorited than others? Or?
Oh yeah. So I mean, the only F1 racing suit here that's mine is the Xbox one.
Yep.
I love that one because I was like a big Xbox fan as a kid. Halo 1 through 3. I'm still a bigger Nintendo fan, but Halo 1 through 3 was like a close place to my heart. And Brad Pollard, the guy who was the driver for that, was involved in Halo to a bit.
Okay.
In a bit of an extent. And I found that at a swap meet after his family, as part of the estate sale, his family let go of that after he passed away. And so it was really exciting to me to be able to find it, and I felt like it was like meant to be the person that found it, because I gave it like a space to be seen again.
To be appreciated by so many thousands.
And I contacted some of his like friends that had commented on his obituary, and they were really excited to see that it ended up in the hands of a collector. They shared some photos of him wearing it, and they were just really excited to see it kind of, repurposed. Right,
it gave it some life.
Yeah, exactly. And then in terms of favorite shirt, the Mega Man X one is kind of a personal favorite. That was given to the dev team commemorating the launch of Mega Man X. I think that's a favorite just because it was one of my favorite games as a kid. But really the story behind how I got it is what makes it a funny story that makes me love the shirt. Is I was hunting that shirt for so long, and I was at a loss of like how to get it. And I finally paid for LinkedIn Premium and messaged every single Capcom USA employee on LinkedIn and got blocked by about 95% of them. And one person finally got back to me and actually sold me theirs that they had in their closet.
Wow.
The other shirt that's a huge favorite of mine is, this is actually Sean's personal shirt, but there's 3 of these that are accounted for. I found 2. I sold him this one. So this is from the Summer Consumer Electronics Show of 1985, Chicago specifically. This was given out to press and the first beta testers of what at the time was called the Nintendo Advanced Video System. It's a precursor to the NES. Back then the console looked completely different. It had like a keyboard design to it. It was really, really interesting. So this is kind of the first textile related to Nintendo's entrance to the home entertainment market in the US, and that's just a really great shirt.
Now, how would someone, like, if they're like literally like 0 to no sales, at least, I don't know, this
Like
stuff is so obscure. How does one be like, all right, well, I think this is market, or like, is it just kind of a ball?
Okay, so there's
like,
there's a company that popped up somewhat recently that I'm friends with. The owners and operators. It's called Legitimate. It's Legiteem, and then the letter or the number 8. They're the founders of Defunct, which was like a popular forum that discussed like the authenticity of vintage apparel in general. It just was covered all segments, whether it was like band T-shirts or video game T-shirts or movie promos. They recently launched an app called Legitimate where you can go there and submit pictures of your apparel and have an expert that works for Legitimate authenticate your shirt.
Okay.
And or whether it's pants, shirt, anything, vintage denim.
Yep.
So they employ an expert or multiple experts in every kind of niche of vintage. There's the video game expert authenticator. I'm the expert authenticator for the video game apparel. There's someone who's in Japan, who's the largest collector of Nirvana apparel that does a lot of like grunge and that kind of era of music apparel. Someone who's an expert in movie stuff that worked in the film industry. So kind of anything that you might come up on at the thrift or you've had sitting in your closet forever. If you wanted not only an authenticity check, but we'll give you an appraisal on it too.
Okay.
That's one way to look. To kind of enter the market if you're inexperienced.
Gotcha. That's really cool.
And we're the main component of that. It is a paid for service to get an individual verification, but even if you don't pay, you can see the past verifications that we have archived on the app. So you can kind of, if you want to just do it your own way, just by comparing what you have to previous passes and fails, you can do that.
Right.
Yeah, we're not trying to make it like cost prohibitive. Even if you do pay, I think the highest tier one that you can purchase is like $15.
Okay.
So we're not doing anything crazy. We're really just trying to build a database of legitimate and illegitimate shirts for people that are like, not falling victim of spending a bunch of money on a counterfeit.
Right. And like, question, so like, if like when you were telling the story about going to LinkedIn to all these execs, what do you approach them with to seal the deal on them selling it to you?
Yeah, I'll normally introduce myself. It helps that I don't know if this would be great advice to someone starting out. It helps that I already have like a website or like an Instagram page to reference, because then I can be like,
it's
hi,
legit.
my name's Johnny, like here's the gaming expos that we're involved in. Here's my Instagram page where I catalog the history of these items. I've been searching for XYZ item for a while. It's like a, I don't know, nostalgic shirt or something that I'm interested in for various reason.
Right.
Be curious if you'd be interested in letting the item go for a reasonable price or market price. If you do happen to have it, it would be going into a personal collection, not resold for profit. There's certain things like that you can drop that maybe demonstrate your appreciation and knowledge of the item. They might not understand like how rare or special something is to someone. So I think like one of my friends, Dave Canlan, he's one of the original developers for Bungie that worked on Halo 1 through 3. He's still with them, I think, doing Destiny stuff. But I talked to him for a while about just my interest in Halo and the apparel related to it. And he was like, oh, here's what I have in my closet. Like, I'd be happy to let all of this go for $20 a t-shirt. And I was honest with him, and I was like, there's a lot of value in this stuff. It's worth a lot more than $20. And he appreciated the honesty, you know, and I think that kind of demonstrated how passionate I was about it. Because he's like, you know, indirectly one of my childhood heroes, you know. So
Right.
I didn't want to rip him off or anything, you know.
Of course.
Have him be upset when he later found out they were worth hundreds of dollars, you know.
Right.
And I told him that, and he was really flattered with my honesty, and he still honored the sale. And then he actually connected me to a couple other developers, and
Wow.
and so I think really just like putting out your feelers, doing cold emails if you have to, paying for LinkedIn Premium to message people,
Right.
and just being honest and like demonstrating your appreciation in an authentic way, really goes a long way.
It's cool seeing like how you can source from different areas that you never would have thought of, like LinkedIn,
Yeah.
like you said. I've
Yeah.
heard about Discord from Phoenix Resale, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
other people are just connecting other than, you know, Facebook and eBay and
Yeah.
all that stuff. Like,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the
That's
gems
so
that you're
cool.
going to find are going to be things that aren't listed. Like
Right.
you're gonna find it from digging and doing research and finding someone's old website that they don't even realize is still up, and contacting the email, or you know, an
Right.
old publication, like a photo that has a caption with someone's name in it, and then you go down the rabbit hole and find them on Facebook.
Right.
Um,
And even yourself, you're an expert, and all you guys are experts. So it's like even connecting with you, it's just like already you have a library and a plethora of knowledge that saves decades
Yeah, I mean,
of
and
research.
for instance, a good way to get started too is just like contacting either myself, Sean, or Stephan. I mean,
Yep.
we're always happy to let go of duplicates to passionate collectors that are interested. And we all love helping people source things, especially if we're not like creating competition for ourselves. Obviously, if I already have an item, even if I don't have a duplicate, I love helping source it for someone. You know, the hunt is just as fun as getting the item itself.
It really is.
Sometimes it's more fun.
Is there an item that's like a right now that you guys know that's like a one of one? Like you haven't seen it?
So all the F1 racing
F1s?
suits are driver worn. They're pretty much one of one.
Yep.
This shirt that I recently acquired, to my understanding, is the only one still in existence. This was
The CDI?
Yeah. You know, I think Sean gave you a little bit of backstory on this, but it was obviously a huge flop, and the dev team was relatively small, and it was a rushed project compared to the other flagship Zelda games. And so this one is the only one that's currently accounted for, and it's a particular favorite of mine because, you know, a lot of the merchandising for Zelda, despite Zelda
being the franchise it is.
Yeah, being the not only the popular franchise it is, but the Zelda being the prominent character relative to the title, at least, everything just features Link. And so I'm sure it was like, you know,
that was a confusing
unfortunately-
thing.
Yeah.
I when I first started collecting, or even getting into gaming, like
Yeah.
I thought Zelda was Link.
Yeah.
And I kept calling Zelda Link.
Yeah, I mean, as kids, I'm
Like,
sure we all did, you know. And it's I'm sure it was, you know, due to maybe the patriarchy or something. Unfortunately, the female character didn't get much, you know, show on any advertising materials. And to my understanding, this is the only vintage Zelda promotional item in the apparel sector, at least, that has a prominent feature of Zelda. So I really like
That's
that
so
too,
cool.
to show like, you know, women in gaming, and that's
sure.
why I put it alongside Samus as well, because, you know, they go hand in hand. It's cool to see that, you know.
Right, literally. I didn't even know
Badass female
Samus was a
character.
girl either until
Yeah,
my
same.
boyfriend told me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god. Right?
Yeah.
They what did they do? They revealed their helmet or something at the end of the game?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
It was something like that, and they're like, oh.
Yeah, it's cool to see some female prominence in the merchandise
For
and
sure.
materials, and so that I put those two together.
No,
Those are the
that's
favorites of
great.
mine. Same with Cortana, actually.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing. This is frustrating as well. Probably should have paired the three of them, but Halo 1 through 3, despite Cortana being like one of the, you know, major characters of the series, that is the only official print from Halo 1 through 3 that features Cortana at all. There was a shirt that said "I heart Cortana" just in text that was available on the Bungie website. There was a tank top, a female tank top that had Cortana's kind of like blue suit design, but nothing that featured her as a character. And this was only given out in 2007 at a press conference in Shinjuku, Japan, to the invitees that were present at the event. So it wasn't even a general release item, unfortunately, and it's the only one that features Cortana as a character on it. So just more instances of not having the female presence, unfortunately. So that makes it special to me as well, and that's part of the reason I like to showcase it.
That is really cool. I have one hat in my collection. I worked for a third party for Nintendo to do an event. It was called Nintendo Summer Play in New York City because I'm from New York.
Awesome.
So we worked the event, and at the end of the event, they gave us an option to either go into the little, the crane game to get a plush, which were all common. Look at that! No crane game. No crane game. Just right straight in. Got the hat. Hey. Got the hat.
Yeah.
Or you could get one of their hats, which it had the Mario star.
Nice.
And it was red.
Okay.
Like the hat was red, the star was yellow, and on the side it said Nintendo Switch on it, and it was engraved, all engraved.
That's awesome.
And it's a snapback, and I love it. And I kept it at home because I'm not much of a hat person when I'm in my videos, but I think that one day will be like one of these where it's like you couldn't get this unless you worked at a Nintendo
100%.
event.
It's already like that.
And it is,
But
I mean, I know it's
20
very
years it'll
new.
be vintage, but
Exactly.
it's still already like that.
Exactly. So I'm definitely going to hold on to that because
Yeah.
that meant a lot to me because that was the first Nintendo event I ever worked
That's awesome.
like as a third party,
Yeah,
and I
that's
was
super
like,
cool.
this is cool. I literally got paid to watch people play Mario Kart for 8 hours
That's awesome.
and like just show them how to do it. They sat in all their seats.
That's
and
so cool. Was
the
it
kids
in
were
like
just
a
playing.
tournament format or just kind of an
No,
exhibition?
it was literally just to encourage kids and families to play the Mario games and
awesome. That's
hey,
super cool.
everybody can play it. They had every single Mario game. They had all different sections of it, and it was just a free event.
That's really rad.
So that was cool. That's like my one little story that I have from one
No,
of these
that's
hats.
great. Yeah, that's awesome.
I had a question about that Nintendo hat. Sorry.
The Super Mario 64 one?
You ever played Halo?
Yeah, what's the story behind that, and how did you get that?
So that actually was from a merchandiser that approved sample prints for Nintendo in Sweden. That was a pre-production sample that ended up getting cut from production because the embroidery costs ended up being a little bit more than what Nintendo was envisioning for the profit margin. So there's a set of them, white, yellow, I think blue and red, that they were all playing around with different designs and sizing on it. And none of them ever reached full production because of the embroidery costs associated with
Right.
it.
There is a lot on that hat. That's very
And so,
costly.
So the person that had worked with Nintendo to review and approve the pre-production samples still had the ones that he had reviewed sitting on a shelf for 20 years, and Sean and I acquired his entire set of items that he had, and so that one up there is my personal one. I wanted the white one. That was the one that was my favorite, and Sean bought the rest of all of them. So he has about, I think, 4 or 5 of them, and that's my one that I kept.
So if you guys do stuff like that, like you buy out like an exec's collection or whatever, how do you divvy up like what it is that you want? Like, have you ever had something that you really wanted, he really wanted? How do you do that?
A lot of the times it's we're aware of each other's existing collection, and just because we both are so invested in preservation, we'll give kind of the first dibs to someone if it completes some set. So like these 2 shirts that I'm sure we've talked your ear off about.
No, I love it. Keep talking. I love this. This is
I
great.
was the one who found 2 of these shirts. There's 3 currently accounted for that we're aware of. I found 2 of them from the same person that was actually an attendee at the event. And I knew that Sean had the counterpart to this. This was for the limited test market launch in New York in October 12th, I think, is when it launched. The 9th is when the shirt is commemorating the party before launching. But anyways, the 2 obviously go hand in hand as kind of the first 2 shirts related to the NES. And Sean had this black one already, which I was actively hunting forever. And I knew that it was either him who was going to sell me an extra one he found or sell me his existing one. But then when I came up on 2 of these, I was like, it makes more sense for me to sell my duplicate to him. I'd expect him to sell his duplicate to me.
Got it.
So
Yeah,
I allowed
that
him
makes
to complete the
sense.
set rather than him letting go of the only one he had of the other.
Right.
So that's kind of like.
So you guys look out for each other, and then you'll remember on the next one, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember, yeah.
And we both have our own kind of like niches. There's certain things like Sean's really involved in action sports. He was the executive producer for a documentary called Pretending I'm Superman, which covered Tony Hawk and some of the. I think it had some elements of the video game too. I haven't watched the documentary personally, but anyway, Sean's like heavily involved in action sports. So anything that's like Tony Hawk related, for instance, like he'll get preference to that. I was on like a Halo team back in the day and used to play competitively, and so anything Halo related, like that national championship shirt, I'd get preference for stuff like that. We kind of just look out for each other's interests. Yeah.
I love that. Do you have anything that you're hunting for currently? Do you have a Holy Grail item? That one.
So I'm, like I said, I'm the one that has. There's two of that shirt. One is in Steve Lynn's personal collection. I think he might have donated it actually to the. He works on the board on the Video Game History Foundation, and they have a museum, I think, or some kind of archive associated with it. So he's the only person that has the other one I'm aware of, and he also has that. So there's two sets, and then I have the standalone SCES one, and I'm missing the black counterpart.
I see.
So that's my Holy Grail right now. There is also a Nintendo Power issue 98 shirt. I'm wearing the 100th issue shirt that's commemorating the 100th issue. Sean's is a display over there. I'm sure you already talked to you about it. But there's a 98th issue one that the graphic is the spines of the. I don't know. Are you familiar with like how the magazines look?
The Nintendo Powers, yes.
So like when you look at the spines, it shows
creates
the issue
something,
number,
right?
But it creates an image.
Yeah.
Once you got to like I think it was in the N64 era issues, they started making like every like 10 or so would like form an image. And so in the 98th issue, there's a t-shirt with a graphic that has the spines of the issues that created Link from Ocarina of Time.
Insane.
And so I've been hunting that shirt for a while. That's probably number 2 on my list. Those are the kind of the only two that are like holy grails I'm looking for.
Do you have any advice? There's new collectors, like if they wanted to get into something like this, what would you tell them, and what's kind of a price range that they could expect?
So
anywhere from low to high.
It all really depends what time range you're interested in, and if you're interested in like Nintendo versus Xbox versus Sega versus Atari. The price range is going to vary based on your interests, even from not only like the platform but the game itself. I would say one easy way to enter the market and familiarize yourself with things is, first and foremost, my biggest advice is collect what you enjoy, not what's popular at the time.
Because you're going to be paying top dollar.
Yeah, you'll see like the Mario Kart 64 shirt, there's an all-over print that wraps around that was part of a sweepstakes in Canada that goes for, I don't know, the last one I know of that sold for like $8,000. And that shirt is unbelievably expensive because there's people from all different areas that don't know anything about apparel collecting that are like maybe sneakerheads or something that want to pay just because they think the game's cool or it's popular or whatever. And so you can really easily get in over your head if you try to collect things just because they're popular at the time.
It's definitely hard not to get the FOMO, but that's
exactly.
for sure.
So number one rule is stick to what you love and what you're passionate about, because there's plenty of stuff that you might end up being passionate about that not many other people are, and it's your grail item. It's subjective. It could be something that doesn't really have much market value, even though it's your favorite thing. So that's my number one rule, first and foremost. Second is a lot of the materials related to the mail away items are available for relatively cheap. Like if you want to start looking at the Nintendo Power issues that came with the Super Supplies catalog, the supplies catalog that came with those issues had a lot of these mail away shirts that are really expensive, but you can pick those up to start reading about the shirts and learning about them. And so once you kind of have an awareness of the history of them, you're in a better position to start like looking for them for steals online, and then if you need to for references in terms of like pricing, make sure you're using like the eBay past sold listings to look through, or check out the legitimate website and app and look at the past authentications with appraisals. That's kind of like what I would suggest.
Yeah, for sure. I love the Marios. I'm like the N64 era. I'm like more like the basic Mario, Pokemon.
Yeah.
Just trying to get into Zelda. I have a few displays in my game room, so I love that.
Awesome. Yeah.
But most of the stuff that I have is modern.
Yeah.
But then it's also like more collectibles, plush, figures, stuff like that.
Well, now's the time to get into that because in 20 years it's going to appreciate. You know?
It will. So I always have the intention of buying two, one to keep sealed and then one to like have on display.
Awesome.
And then
That's
it's
awesome.
like I'd like to use that as my physical stock, so that way in 20 years sell that off to then use that for something that I really want in the collection.
That's awesome. That's a way to do it for sure. Yeah, I'll actively be purchasing stuff even if I already have it in the apparel sector, because I know that if I find something at a reasonable price that's extremely rare, I'll just use it to trade for something that
exactly.
I want, you know?
So like the
that's another piece of
duplicates.
advice, too.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Like the duplicates that you have, if it's too good of a price, you just pick it up.
Yeah, 100%. There's actually the Get Instant Repair shirt here. This was the first
That's a really
authorized
cool
repair
one.
center print that was given to the employees, and I picked up a second one of those. And that's the only two that I'm aware of that are accounted for. And I'm about to bring it out in an hour or two. Chris is going to pick it up for me as part of a trade deal. So
nice.
You know,
it seems like most of these shirts are always large as well, because they're mostly like guys that collect them, or people are just naturally larger sizes.
So if you're gonna see them in an exhibit, a lot of the time it's gonna be in large or XL, just because most of the people that collect apparel have a preference towards being able to wear it. But in terms of actual like production numbers, they are typically the rarest ones. There's a lot more that were produced in small and medium than large and XL, because some of the rarer ones were made to order, like the mail away ones, or box top related ones that you'd send in, like a set of Dr. Pepper box tops or Mountain Dew box tops, you know.
Yep.
And so the ones that you're going to see, the inverse of that, the ones that are commonly in large and XL, are going to be a lot of the ones that were given specifically to the dev teams and stuff, because they were like adults, you know, in programming or production, you know.
And what do you guys do with these when they're not on display? Like, how are these displayed at your homes? Like,
I know
or are
Sean
they back
has
in the
more
closet?
Of an exhibit style setup at his house, where he has a walk-in closet that can facilitate like kind of showcasing them and storing them.
Yep.
I recently moved from a house into an apartment, just saving up to buy a property in SoCal, which we all know is super expensive.
Yes. Well, I just learned about it, actually. It's only like my 4th day here, and I'm like...
you came from New York, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, I mean,
it's also expensive, but I did buy a house upstate, and it wasn't anywhere near $1 million.
Yeah. So mine is currently... unfortunately tucked away where I don't really have a great opportunity to showcase it. I'm sure Sean told you that he's working to open a brick and mortar museum by 2025, and if that does take place,
that's where these will go.
I'm going to allow him to absorb my entire collection, because I could drive up I'm in San Diego.
Okay.
As long as I can drive up and see it all in one set together, and the public gets to enjoy it, I wouldn't mind not technically owning it, you know?
Right.
But I wouldn't piecemeal anything and let it get tucked away, but I'd be happy to see it on display where other people can enjoy it.
That's so cool. Do you have any shirts that like you kind of would wear out, but like...
Would not wear out? Or would?
That you would wear out?
Oh, I would wear out?
Yeah. Or is it just all kind of like you have to keep it in the condition it's in, you don't want to mess with it?
No, I'll wear out a decent amount of these. This one I won't wear out or put on ever. I'm wearing my issue 100 shirt. It's kind of like, I kind of have a preference towards wearing the shirts. I've worn this a ton, as you can see. I kind of have a preference towards wearing shirts where I feel like it's a great way to spark a conversation with people. Like a lot of times someone will comment on it and talk to you about, you know, their interest in gaming or even apparel if you get lucky, you know.
Exactly.
It's
and then
cool
it could be even another connection where it's like, oh, I know someone who does this.
100%. It's cool to do that. So yeah, there's definitely, I don't say there's any like preference in terms of like whether it's Halo or Nintendo or Xbox, what I choose to wear versus what I don't. There's just a select few shirts that are the rarity and the history, just I won't be willing to wear.
Right.
But I'd say a vast majority I'm comfortable wearing out.
And I know that you said that you've sold your game collection to then afford this one, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
do you think that you would ever phase out of the clothing or move on to something
The only way I'd
else?
phase out is if I, like I said, if I let it go to a museum.
Right.
I was just in a bind, honestly, paying for law school in San Francisco, and you know, that's like,
Yep.
I'm sure I was on a good scholarship, and still it was
Yep.
cost of living and cost of law school was
Yes.
very cost prohibitive. So,
Do you have a best source of selling your items for top dollar? Is it just eBay or is it friends or like how?
honestly,
how do you optimize it?
It depends on the rarity of the item. If you have something really rare, the best place that you're going to get top dollar for it is someone who also appreciates the rarity, so selling to a fellow collector. Otherwise, you risk running an auction and potentially the right audience doesn't see it, or if only one person is seeing it, they're not bidding against anyone else.
Right.
Other than that, more of the general release type of items that you're hoping to get market price for, I'd say just general online listings is pretty helpful. Instagram, if you have the audience and the channels to do it, so that you're not having anyone take a cut of your revenue.
Right.
Otherwise, you know,
Right.
you pay the premium on eBay to get the audience, or Heritage to get the audience.
Right.
So
Right.
kind of depends on the item. That's another thing too, that is why, if you have, even if it's not rare, if you can sell to a fellow collector who you've done business with before, a lot of the times I've absorbed collections from people who were in a bind, and you remember the fact that they didn't really want to sell it, and if they ever come back in a position to buy it back from you, I'd like to think everyone is probably not everyone, but I know a lot of us are receptive to that,
Right,
and
right.
would be happy to see it go back to the hands that it originally came. And a lot of us will sell it back to you at what you bought it for too. That's a huge benefit too. One of the things that I recalled in terms of like collecting advice is connect with people that are outside of the scope of your interests. Because a lot of the craziest apparel that I've gotten has come from physical game collectors that don't care about apparel, but they might have it. So they're comfortable letting go of things that aren't necessarily their niche. So if you collect with people who collect, or if you connect with people who collect like the point of purchasing, like kiosk displays or promotional items, they might have apparel that they've absorbed over the years that they're not really invested in because it's not their primary focus, and they might be willing to let it go to you because of that.
Right.
And vice versa applies, you know.
That's such a good tip, because like my buddies, they realize that you're like, CJ, you're not really a game collector, are you? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I only have a few of the games that I wanted, that I had as a kid, or that I played as a kid, and then the rest I just started getting into the collectibles, and I enjoyed that a little bit more, and the displays. And that's a whole nother category that I cannot get into financially. But it's like, it's cool to see like what people have. My friend has 40 arcade cabinets. I'm like, good God. You know, that's insane. But it's so cool to see this stuff.
Yeah, you find like the coin-op people or collectors, and they might have stuff from console releases that they don't really care too much about, because coin-op is their, you know, their kind of segment. And so that's like a good way to source stuff as well. And it's valuable just in general to familiarize yourself with other areas of collecting, you know. The knowledge might come back to help you out later down the road when you don't realize it. You might see something that's advertised as a promotional for something that you're not really sure is authentic, and you realize that they're using like artwork or assets from some game that doesn't match up with what the print is, and you know that you wouldn't really have that knowledge or expertise if you didn't venture outside of your area of interest.
And I love the stories behind everything, because like when I explain everything in my game room video, it's an hour and 16 minutes long. It's like every item has a story. I know where it came from, I know the price, I know who sold it to me, and that's really cool to see. And that's how I see you guys doing your thing too. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh, how does he remember that? And I'm like, it's the same thing that I do. You know?
You either recall just from the memory because it was such a important like moment to you, or I'm a big Excel nerd, so I've been tracking kind of like everything I've purchased, I think from 2008 in an Excel spreadsheet.
Wow.
I have a separate tab for each year, and I try to keep it updated on like what the item is, the condition, the year, a blurb about what it is, and what I paid for it versus what current market is.
That's so cool.
Or that column has not been updated at all. It's just too exhausting to try to update every item with current
I was gonna
market,
say
fluctuates.
that's very time consuming, but like I do a very low scale of that on my phone. I do it in the notes, and I write the place where I bought it, categorized, GameStop, whatever.
Yeah.
The date I bought it, what the item was, what the price was, sales tax, everything, all in.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Because then when I want to sell it, I'm like, oh yeah, what did I buy that from?
Yeah.
When was it?
If you're
Oh, I bought it
letting
from
it go
this.
for whatever,
Right, it's good to know.
You might look back and see that you got something for a steal, and then it's going to a friend that you would appreciate it more than you, and you're willing to let it go for cheaper because
Exactly,
of that. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's so cool talking to you. I don't mean to monopolize your whole time, but I'm like,
it's great
I could talk to you all day. This is so cool.
Same. I've really enjoyed speaking with you.
No, me too. There is one shirt that I know that the only thing that I've like seen on YouTube from Retro Rick, because I don't know much about the vintage shirts and the collecting, is that Donkey Kong 64 shirt. And I'm like, why is that so sought after right now? Is it just because
the tie-dye one?
Yeah, the green one?
Yeah, the green one. Okay.
Yeah. Why is that one so like hunted?
Everything that's like an all over print, we call it AOP for short.
Okay.
Is pretty sought after when you have the printing going all the way from the collar to the hem. It's generally a sought after print regardless of what game it is. And then Donkey Kong 64 I think is just such a nostalgic
iconic game.
Yeah, for most people in our age range range that's currently collecting.
Are you a 90s kid too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was born in 94.
Okay, same.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So yeah, I think that's really the combination of it. And then this shirt was a catalog shirt as well. And the larger sizes are just really hard to come by. So that's kind of, I think scarcity plays, a huge part in that as well. You'll see other catalog shirts, like even though they were still catalog shirts, that are more popular.
That's funny.
But this one specifically is really hard to come by in large and XL. The value of like resources that I was telling you about, for instance, the legitimate stuff, is having like an archive of legitimate versus fraudulent items and people to talk to and interact with. There's I don't know if it's the Facebook group you saw it in, but the Vintage Kiosk and Display group.
Yes, that's the one I'm in.
All those guys like Benjamin Waddle that runs that, and Hector, all the people that are involved in any of those Facebook groups are a great resource to talk to as well.
Yes, yes.
There's the clothing counterpart, the vintage video game clothing. I run that Facebook group with Coleman Berg, my buddy. He's the one who actually originally founded the group. So yeah, any of that, just networking on those two is great resources. Or even just searching past posts.
Such a time, like I love living in the past.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing for me.
Yeah, I think we were both.
It was a good time.
I heard you and Sean both talking about some items maybe being cost prohibitive when you were younger, and now that you're an adult with your adult money, you're just reliving, buying the stuff that you would have gotten if you had free access to everything.
Exactly. Like
yeah,
I mean,
I'm doing the same thing.
I never owned an N64 growing up, but I played on the N64 at my babysitter's house because her son had every single game possible. So truthfully, I wouldn't have had any of these memories if it weren't for them.
That's funny. That's exactly what happened to me as well. My next door neighbor was a prominent attorney in town, and his daughter was my babysitter, and she had a Super Nintendo that she'd let me play on it, kind of just to, I guess, make babysitting less involved. I just sit there, she'd put me in front of the TV and I'd play it, Donkey Kong Country. And then when she got older, like 12 or 13, because she was pretty young too when she was babysitting me, she just gave it to me. And so that's kind of how I ended up with my first console. And then my parents later on bought me an N64, and I explored that library. But yeah.
That's so cool. Do you have a favorite game on N64?
Favorite Snowboard Kids, probably.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunately one of the few N64 games that doesn't have any promotional apparel for it. Yeah.
Also another rare one.
Yeah, definitely.
Of course. I think mine would just be Mario 64 or Mario Kart. I just love that one because you can play for hours.
Definitely.
And like just getting lost in the open world. I love the Mario parties. Yep.
Yeah, Snowboard Kids, Ocarina, obviously. Everyone loves Ocarina.
I never played Ocarina until recently, like a few years ago.
Did you play it on the 3DS, or did you play it on the N64?
I played it on the N64 just so I could experience it the right way.
The trauma of equipping the iron boots with the C button.
Yep.
Yeah, if you don't go through that pain in the water temple, then
we made it to the water temple. We made it to the water temple, and then like my boyfriend and his brother are like, "Oh my gosh, we're back here."
Yeah. Yeah, or what I meant to say actually was not being able to equip the iron boots from the C button, because they made it an assignable item on the 3DS variant, and you could just swap through having them equipped versus unequipped with the C button. And on the original one, you obviously have to go into the menu to put them on and take them off. And so I always joke about that being like the baby mode version of Ocarina if you had to do the water temple on the 3DS.
Yep.
Yeah, the other one, I guess, if I was to pick like an obscure N64 game that I feel like not a lot of people play or talk about, is the Chameleon Twist series. Have you played those?
No, but I've seen the
Twist 1 and
cart
2?
before.
Those are so cool.
Are they?
Those games are really trippy. I recommend you play through them if you haven't had a chance to. Mischief Makers too. That's a favorite of mine that doesn't have any apparel to my knowledge that was associated with the game.
Do you still game now?
Yeah.
You
definitely.
still game now? Yeah. Are you more like PC or physical since you got rid of most of your collection?
I'm super into emulation.
Yeah.
So I have a bunch of handheld emulators. I have a Mr. FPGA, which is like I don't know if you're familiar with that technology. It's like
I have the analog pocket.
Okay, yeah.
Yep,
So I have an analog pocket, same FPGA technology.
Yep.
I have an analog pocket, Mr. FPGA. I got like every single Miu Mini they've made, and same with the Retroid line, like everything pretty much that they've
so you can
made.
play everything.
Yeah, and but I do still have I have the EverDrive 64, the SD to SNES. So I have like my physical console still. I kept my original consoles. I sold like my boxed games, my boxed controllers, those kind of stuff. But I kept all my childhood consoles, and I kept some of my favorite cartridges, just loose cartridges.
Gotcha.
It was more so like the really expensive ones, like Sculptor's Cut, Stunt Racer, that kind of stuff I got rid of.
Was that the gray cart one that you had, the Sculptor's cart? Or which one's the rare one? That.
Oh, you might be thinking of, I think it's Turok Rage Wars, where they have a gray variant.
That one?
Yeah.
But then I know that there's a Sculptor's Cut, like Blockbuster exclusive or something.
That's Sculptor's Cut.
That's
versus
the one.
63 and a third. There's
I
Sculptor's Cut's
see.
the rare one.
I see.
They're both great cards, though, if I remember correctly.
And then something about UFO bowling or something.
Bowling
one.
I think it's like the heavy hitters are Sculptor's Cut, Stunt Racer, and I thought it was Super Bowling, but I could be
Super
wrong.
bowling, yeah.
Okay,
Super bowling, yeah. It was like some bowling, but I thought it had UFO in it.
Yeah, all in my opinion, all crappy games. But
Yeah, for sure.
Extremely rare.
But that's probably why.
But yeah, there's a lot of them that are either unfinished or crappy and super expensive, like Cheetah Man on the NES. I don't know if more have been found since I last looked at it, but I remember back in the day those were even super expensive. And that game's like unfinished and really crappy.
Yeah. My holy grail item, and it is expensive, but it's not like crazy. It's the Game Boy Color Pokemon Gold and Silver box.
Oh, okay.
And I have it loose. That was the one I had as a kid growing up.
Yeah.
And my mom bought it for me. She was a single mom. She didn't really have a lot of money, but she gave me this. This was my first system, handheld system ever. And I'm like, I really want to get that again. Right now I can't afford it, but like would love to have that. That's the only thing I would really want. I would get rid of the rest of the collection.
Yeah.
And right now I think it's like someone was selling theirs for like $900 complete, but I have the Pokemon Yellow box.
Yeah.
So I think I want to sell mine for like, maybe I could sell it for $1,000. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think there's some paperwork I'm missing, so maybe whatever, but people want the box.
Yeah,
and it's
definitely.
in good condition. Bought it on eBay for like $2 and change.
Yeah.
So make profit off of that for something that I actually want.
Yeah, awesome.
So we'll see.
That's cool. That's cool to hear.
That'll be the thrill of the hunt too.
Yeah,
you
definitely. Yeah, continue to put the feelers out too, because like sometimes people end up with those items that they know you really want, and they'll sell it to you under market just because they know how much you appreciate it versus them. Like that's one of those situations where like if I found one of those at Goodwill auctions for cheap, I'd sell it to you for half price, so we both make
you both make something, right? Yeah.
You get it because you really appreciate it. So,
exactly. And she had passed away a year and a half ago, so it was hard. Thank you. And I bought the house for her with my boyfriend, so it's like that kind of got me into like collecting, was to get that Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a whole YouTube channel and like collecting, and then I just went down the rabbit hole of every day something's coming to the house.
Yeah.
A little something here, there, and everywhere, and I'm like, all right, I gotta chill a little bit now.
Yeah.
Adulting, like you said, I gotta pay for stuff.
Definitely, yeah.
I'd love to like stay in touch with you guys.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I'm on the East Coast, so if you ever need anything or see anything, like I can look for you. I'm in New York City. anything
Yeah,
I
likewise.
feel like you
if
on
you come to San
West
Diego,
Coast.
let me know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be sweet. Thank you so much, you guys, for those who stay tuned to the very end. I hope you got something of value, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.